I'd just like to say that school closures are a disgrace to the district. We saw schools close in the recent, a number of years, and people are in the streets. I stand with Mike Hutchinson. I think what's going on is just a disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Ty Nguyen.
Go ahead, please.
I am a father of a daughter in Corby Monk School. And the last time I look in the mirror, I'm still a minority. Whether I'm yellow or brown, it doesn't matter, but I'm Vietnamese Americans. And I've been a retired teacher. I have cut my teeth in education at the Franklin Elementary School in Oakland. I went to San Francisco and Unify, and I never, in all my teaching experience, have experienced anything as atrocious as the chopping board, because research have shown that no school closure have saved any money. In fact, you are confused when you talk about a lot of assumption with these financial district higher analysis. You should be ashamed of yourself, because I think for Corby Monk Elementary, it is a shameful affair if the district gonna choose the school to do anything other than educating our children. And I side with all my blacks, brown, and yellow students, because I think for once, Asian students and their parents are the silent ones. But in this case, we cannot and we will not be quiet, because you guys are taking our tax money to do the very controversial closure of school, which have saved no money to the district at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Mick Sanchez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Perfect. Hello, my name is Mick Sanchez. I am the choir director, GSA liaison, and school site council president at Westlake Middle School. They say that all is fair in love and war. So on the first day of Black History Month, which is tomorrow, February 1st, I will begin a hunger strike with my fellow warrior eagle, Moses Omalade, against school closures and mergers, which will not end until the board decides to find another way and stop closing and merging our schools. Since I'm an educator and I know that there isn't much research on starvation, I invite any scientists to do research during this process. However, if I die, I want the board to know that my death was at your hands. To my father who raised me. As a single gay parent, you went to war for me. Now I must do the same for my people. Thank you for instilling me a fighting spirit on behalf of love. To my students, past and present, I want you to know that I love each and every one of you, and there is absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Always fight for truth and what is right. Also, please remember to take care of yourself, take care of one another, and take care of Westlake. Go Warrior Eagles, because if not now, then when? Thank you.
thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Alex Minus.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, great. I don't have any children that go attend OUSD, any OUSD schools, but I am a resident of District 6, and I live near Parker Elementary. And I know that I'm very active in the community, as with several people in that area. And what I can tell you is that Parker Elementary has been a focus for us for community development, and we have been investing our time and energy into the school in helping us better the community. I know there's probably some people on the call who are arranging a street mural in front of the school. We have also implemented traffic calming measures in the area to help parents drop off their schools to the school. And for this school to be on the chopping block, it would just set our community in East Oakland many years back in terms of the progress that we've made over there. We've had several community members that have been working very, very hard to just make it a better space for the community and for the students alike. And we were hoping to work more. We are hoping to work more, and we know we will be working more with the students to help, beautification programs and a gardening project and so forth. And we really want to see this sort of engagement with students to make East Oakland a better place to live. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Seychelles.
Yes, next speaker we have is Jahara Stevenson.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Greetings. And first of all, I would like to say I got caught up in the passion. If I was disrespectful to anybody, I want to apologize, because my message can get across with anger and it creates more of the same. And what I would like to say is closing those schools mean more than merging buildings. We have to find babysitters. We have to find grocery stores and laundromats. We live in different lives than you guys are. There's single parents, 80%. And then like the young man said, I'm doing my part to build the community. You're going to dismantle all of that. And that's going to be a problem. And not for us. That's the hard part. That's what you guys are not understanding. We're not going to carry this. We born here. We born in the Bay. We got the greatest minds and musics and texts here. Y'all cannot get busy. I remember when Libby needed money, she called us together, and the 24 hours, somebody gave us $10 million for the digital divide. I remember Keisha Young from the Oakland Reach, when y'all was talking about closing down schools, she brought the opportunity ticket to the board. So we don't mind working with y'all, but y'all got to work with us, and you're making us look really bad. And it's like we don't trust you. I trust Mike Hutchison, but I don't trust you guys, and I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm just putting my heart on the altar, and we're going to fight. My mother didn't bring us over to Oakland and build us up. My sisters teach. Everybody is doing something to help the community, and if they're not, they're advocating for it. So please be in solidarity with the right thing, like MLK say. Happy Black History, you guys.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes, next, excuse me. Yes, next speaker is Jason G.
Go ahead, please.
Jason Gilbertson, SEIU member, ISS Claremont. On the California School Board's website, it states, the role of the school board is to ensure that school districts are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of their communities. This community is 100% against closing our neighborhood schools. It always has been, and it always will be. This community never agreed to the 45 charter schools that operate in Oakland. These charter schools have effectively taken away almost 17,000 students from this district. 17,000. You talk about a deficit, and yet there are 17,000 students attending charter schools in Oakland, funneling money away from this district. Maybe this board should be the first to start working on closing those charter schools and bringing those students back to this district. I urge all directors of this board, most especially the turncoats who promised they would not close schools, to vote no on school consolidations. Stop declaring war on this community and fight against the real problem that has torn the city apart for almost 20 years. Charter schools. I'm done.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Clarissa.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening, school board, and my name is Clarissa Douthard. I'm executive director of Parent Voices Oakland. I am the mother of a middle school student here in Oakland Unified School District. And I just want to say that a couple of things. One, how dare you? How dare you use early learning, early education as a justification for closing our schools, as if we can bargain away precious public infrastructure for our youngest learners without a very clear plan in terms of how to implement the programs for our young youth 0 to 5. If you're going to be considering closing pre-K programs, which could be feeders, as a couple of our school directors, I want to lift up Mike Hutchinson, Ben Cedric Williams, and also Sam Davidson. I just really don't understand the rationale for closing community hubs that provide services to our families, places that we could be driving enrollment by ensuring that our children have a quality early learning experience, and closing these facilities, making transportation more difficult, making access to services like food programs, mental health programs more challenging. I do not understand how you are just able to sell that to our communities, knowing that, and I'm going to specifically call out Dr. Gary Yee here. How can we believe you when you have not upgraded the facilities to Laurel's CDC? All of these plans that you have laid out, how is the community to believe anything that you are saying when promises have been made and not kept historically, not just from this tenure or not just from this period of representation on the school board, but previous representation on the school
Please
board?
wrap it up.
I am saying that we have seen promises made before and not delivered. What is different about this time? And please do
Thank
not
you.
use early
Thank you.
education as an excuse to close schools. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Sudha Ray.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm the resident of Ney Avenue, District 6, and my house is close to Parker Elementary School. We are working hard to partner with Parker Elementary School and taking multiple initiatives for that school to increase the enrollment. And even OUSD has recently invested multi-million dollars to renovate that school. So closing that down, I don't think it's a financially wise choice. Now, throughout this presentation, everybody saw how it would fiscally help, but it will not fiscally help. I don't see the root cause of decreasing enrollment. Where is the study to how to increase our enrollment problem, right? We're not solving the problem. We'll be closing the school at the same rate next year and then year after. And we need to focus on increasing the enrollment and keep these schools, which are below 580, keep them open. These are the schools where Black and brown community members go there, and they need that kind of school and the support system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Erica Guerrero.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Guerrero. Can you
You're breaking up.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
I just wanted to call and say I'm here. I was here at Manzanita Community. We were hoping to get lots of public comment in from parents and families. I'm disappointed in the way that the meeting went this evening. And I'm disappointed that all of this information that you shared wasn't made the public wasn't engaged earlier, sooner. It's late in the game to be disclosing all of this information. I understand that the budget is an issue. I understand that we need money from somewhere, but I also agree that charter schools have become a problem, and I agree that money somehow is being funneled to charter schools. We've lost 30% of our students in Oakland to charter schools, and I know that some of you support that and don't want to fund public schools or improve public schools anymore. And that's what's disappointing to me. It's not that our schools are closing, it's the way that this board in particular has gone about it. It seems dishonest. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Stephanie Perry.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, great. This presentation was just staggering. The analysis seems to me was a sham. The fact that you would hire an outside non-local consultant, yet again, showing your wasteful practices, to present that you could save a maximum of $15 million by cutting these schools. If I understand correctly, with a $700 million budget, that's just 2.1%. All this misery and heartache for 2.1% is really appalling. The analysis, where's the data on race? Where's the data on distance of welcoming school to closed school? Where's the data on academic growth of the closed school? Where's the data on what will happen to the closed school site? Where's the data on the closed school facilities condition? All of these things are missing, and it's laughable how poor this presentation was. Also, I wanted to say, what kind of organization goes straight to the nuclear option? The district has never done anything to help work with the schools to increase enrollment. I have been at Prescott for a decade. I've been begging for your help. Each and every one of you I've spoken to personally. You have never come to help our school, ever. You go straight to closing the school. It's beyond belief. What I want to say to my fellow allies out there, we need to rise up. It is not enough to sit back and watch this nonsense. We need to come together in numbers en masse to hold this district accountable. This Saturday, February 5th, 10 a.m., Prescott School. I challenge each of the 1,800 people here tonight to be to Prescott. We need every single one of you to bring 10 people so we can show this district how strong we are. It's not okay. I love you all. People, let's unite and come together and make a difference.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Asma.
Go ahead, please.
Asma, if you could unmute yourself. Mr. President, should we move on to the next speaker?
Yes, please.
Next speaker is Jill Christina Vest.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, my name is Jill Christina Vest, and this last 2 hours of dribble from Shanti, Amy, Gary, Monica, Sam, Clifford, and especially Kyla and Sandra is appalling. OUSD is not at an deficit. You are clearly attacking Black and brown and yellow schools. Those images, those demographics were very clearly missing from every single one of your slides. When you go to bed tonight, please know that there's a special place in hell for you. If you close these schools and you talk as if this is a done deal, this is not a done deal. You will not close these schools. You will not continue to assault Black and brown communities. Shame on you. Shame on you that you are Black and brown and yellow makes your aggressiveness towards these schools even more offensive. Why did you exclude those demographics from your slides? Why are there no people and public comments supporting what you're doing? All of us are against you. of us are against this. This is not okay. They've been doing this across the country. Your outside consultants are useless. That was wasted money. Yet again, you are not going to close these schools. You are not going to speak as if this is a done deal. We are the public, and we are demanding a recall of all of this. Saturday, 10 a.m., Prescott Elementary, no, you're not closing schools, period.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Speakers going back to Ajma.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Asma, if you could unmute yourself. Okay, moving on to the next speaker.
Okay,
Next speaker is Yael Friedman.
okay, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
My name is Yael Friedman. I teach 5th grade at Acorn Woodland Elementary. The first thing I want to say is I was shocked to hear that there is a plan to move SDC classes to Acorn Woodland and Encompass. We currently don't have enough room for our current special ed teachers to have classrooms. So I'm really not sure how you're planning on accommodating any more special needs children. Not that they wouldn't be welcome, but there is literally no space for our current special needs children. The other thing I want to say is that there's really nothing to say in opposition to school closures that hasn't been said better by other people. So I would like to read a statement written by Dr. Martin Luther King, who more eloquently described Sam Davis in his racist and backstabbing behavior than I ever could. Over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that Black people's greatest stumbling block in their stride towards freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises Black people to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. So thank you, Sam Davis. I hope that you feel ashamed for turning your backs on the teachers and community that campaigned for you and fought for you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Trish Billinson.
Hi, good evening. Trish Bellinson, library technician, SCIU member and parent. School closures are not the answer to solving the district's embellished financial crisis. For those who are around for the Roots and Kaiser closures, you know and have felt the devastating impacts of those actions. The most marginalized and vulnerable communities are being targeted. Black and brown students, special ed students, socioeconomically disadvantaged, etc. There's been no community engagement, and our students matter. Our families matter. Our teachers, our classified staff matter. What the district calls welcoming schools are already low resource schools and are sometimes up to about 4 miles away from what your tables are showing. You have the responsibility to serve our students and our families, and school closures is not that. No school closures. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Alexis Sosa.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to allow the person to speak. The person needs to update the Zoom. Moving on to the next speaker, Phyllis Copes.
Good evening, school board members and community. My name is Phyllis Copes. I am currently the president of SCIU Chapter 10 to 1 Schools Chapter. We are totally opposed against schools closures. We all know that if we have school closures, it is not going to benefit anybody, and it's going to fall on the backs of our classified employees who will be laid off and disrupted. Second, I am speaking as Phyllis, the grandmother of a student who goes to Carl Monk. Now, this is just my perspective on this, but the optics look really bad. First of all, Carl Monk was chosen, number one, because it's a safety. It's above 580. So we're a whole family at Carl Monk. Now you gave us an option of putting our kids at Allendale or maybe Laurel. That's below 580. You never once said Redwood Heights or Joaquin Miller. So that just lets me know as a Black parent that you think that I shouldn't go to those schools, put me back in my place below 580. Well, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir. I will not be going to any one of those schools. You praise these schools for all of their academic improvements and teachers awards and all this stuff, and then you put them on a chopping block. That makes no sense whatsoever. And we know the board is going to vote 5-2, as always, unless Amy votes first, then Sam will vote yes to save face. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Amika.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm a bit concerned about the analytical data that was presented in the report by your esteemed accountants. It doesn't seem to me that it's justifiable. Just doesn't seem like the savings is something that is worth putting everyone at such suffering for. I'm struggling to understand the actual reasoning behind the school closures. I understand that the charter schools have taken away a lot of the students from the public schools. I think that's an issue that should be addressed and discussed. But as I'm just trying to understand what the intention is, what the true motivation is or are to close these community schools. Because the savings is, anywhere from $2 to $14 million is, I don't know, it just doesn't, it seems paltry almost. So I'm scratching my head to understand what is actually motivating the school closures, because it doesn't seem like the savings is enough to justify it. So I am encouraging each of you to really consider the devastation that will occur if these schools are closed, and if the reasoning behind the closure is really worth it. It just doesn't seem like it is. And I hope that you can have a more creative approach and a better strategy to figure out how to deal with these issues by engaging the multiplicity of communities that are on the Zoom and in the communities, and figure out a better way, because this particular way that you're going about it just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. So I'm a little.
The speaker's time has expired, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Maria Perner.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Maria Perner, and I'm here as a TKK teacher from Korematsu Discovery Academy. Our school is one of the few schools here named for a person of color, and even more unique, KDA is named after Fred T. Korematsu, who was born in East Oakland, learned in the classrooms of the school now named after him, and our school truly works to live his legacy of civil rights, activism, and social justice advocacy. While the letter sent to our community from you stated that small schools, and I quote, cannot support a sufficient number of staff to offer a strong instructional program, nor can they properly serve as community schools. I invite all of you to come and visit and see just how false that statement is. OUSD actually posted a post on Facebook and then quickly deleted it that stated the exact opposite about our campus. Please listen to our community and do not balance your budget on the backs of our students and families. Listen to all of the people of the community here tonight. I'm even more disgusted after seeing the presentation that proves that what we've been saying all along. Closing schools does not save a meaningful amount of money. The savings that have been shown can be done in a variety of other ways. Please be creative and think outside the box. Our communities have been through enough. I also ask that you elevate our student Alexis Sosa to panelist so he can use his voice. Thank you.
The next speaker we have is Alicia Snyder.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. President, should I move on to this next speaker?
Okay, go ahead.
Next speaker we have is Jessica Myers.
Okay, go ahead. Please.
Hi there. Gonna keep it super brief. Just want to say that I am a STIP substitute at Grass Valley Elementary, a school that is slated to be closed, which is absolutely insane. I've been at the school for only 3 weeks now, and I can just tell how crucial it is to its community. And if you choose to close this school, we are going to fight. We are not going to allow this to happen. This is just, it's insane. It's insane. So please, please do not close our schools.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker, Mr. President, is we have the same name, Gio Christina Vess has spoken already. Should we move on to the next person?
Yes, please.
Next speaker is Kampala Taz Risenford.
Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Ms. Taz.
Okay, should we go to the next speaker, Mr. Seychao?
Yes, move on to the next speaker. Michelle Lanes.
Hi, how are you? I'm Michelle. And I would like to say that I also question your timing on this matter. As someone who's currently in business school, I have never seen anyone suggest such a substantial closure with information that was done weeks before the closure. You all have known that you've had a deficit for years. You had all year during COVID to find the time to accurately provide information to us while we were at home educating our own children. You didn't. You sprung this at the last minute. It's unconscionable. I work in an environment where that would never be acceptable in my own business environment. And the other thing that I want to add is it's definitely a questionable decision to make these sorts of calls when there's no understanding of your rationale or justification. What I saw, to the point of another speaker, was a lot of schools in the hills serving Black and brown children closing in favor of mainlining them to other schools that are below 580. I find that unconscionable. I find it deeply disturbing. And unfortunately, I think that you will be on the wrong side of history on this if you close these schools. You'll just be on the wrong side of history. So I urge you to be deliberate and to make your decisions defensible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Elena Denise.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Elena. I've been teaching in Oakland Unified School District for going on 11 years. I agree with all the previous speakers that this school closure is poorly justified, and financially it doesn't add up. So it would be great to have more transparency about why this is happening. And additionally, it is deeply troubling that most of the board, aside from Mike Hutchinson, are not engaging more. And in the words of Sam Davis, school closures are personal, not just to Sam Davis, to all of us. Sam Davis himself experienced a school closure and said the following in his article in February 2020, so 2020, 2 years ago. He wrote that closing a school is incredibly emotional and painful for that school community because it contradicts all of the hopes and dreams for the future that a school represents. It erases all the memories that live there. We can't take these decisions lightly, and we have to be honest with each other about what the impacts will be and tell our kids the truth about it, what it means for their future. And I would like more evidence that the board is considering alternatives. Why aren't other schools being included in these calculations of the district? If it affects everyone in the district, then we could get behind what's going on. Every school should be on the slate to be potentially closed or funds reallocated. There's no reason why a hill school such as Chabot or Sequoia or Piedmont Avenue, where I teach, aren't also being considered. This should affect everyone, and then the district would rally and find ways to support everyone. It should not be that the same schools in low income areas are always taking the brunt of these negative outcomes. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Shratri Jackie.
Hi, yes, I am Shratri Jacques. I am a teacher here at CCPA. I am the computer science teacher. I also teach data science. And my comments today are mainly towards the data that you use to justify these closures. So one of the first ones is on the first page of the resolution. You put in some data about Fontana, Fremont, Fresno, Hayward, Riverside, Santa Ana, and Stockton to compare against OUSD. And you don't even, I noticed that there are a couple of schools missing from that list that might skew the data a little bit. So namely Emeryville, Alameda, San Francisco, all of these. So this is cherry picked data. The data you yourself are presenting do not fit the standards of proper data practice, right? So moving on. So the equity, sustainability, and metrics that you say starting now on page 21 of the document are basically magic numbers, right? You do not tell us what metrics go into calculating these numbers. They are basic. They are just not a transparent way that you have now told us how you have made these choices. Okay, so this entire report has terrible data practices and will not even, it wouldn't pass muster in any other situation, right? So I want you to know that we see that, we will absolutely bring that to bear point by point by point. We will refute every single piece of data that you show, showing that the data that you presented to justify this is invalid.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Renee Nelson.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Linnea Nelson. I am a senior staff attorney with the ACLU of Northern California and the statewide education equity team lead and parent of 2 OUSD students, including my son, who is at Hint Hill Preschool, which is a historic site blessed by members of the Scotts Valley tribe of Pomo Indians on the Carl Monk Elementary School campus. My family is among the many Oakland families who will be seriously and negatively impacted by this action. The ACLU is deeply troubled that a majority of the schools slated for closure this year are schools where Black students are in the majority and where a majority of their schools are led by Black principals. The district cannot divorce itself of its history, an ongoing pattern of anti-Black racism in the district, which shows that schools serving greater numbers of Black students over the last 2 decades have been targeted for closure, merger, and redesign at the cost of massive disruption in the lives of Black students and their families. We understand that the district has identified for closure smaller schools, yet the smaller schools that serve a majority of white students in wealthier areas in the hills, such as Hillcrest and Redwood Heights, are not being considered for closure. This demonstrates disparate racial impact and sends the clear message to the Oakland school community that Black students matter less. The board must put off any decision to close schools until there can be meaningful public input from Black students and their families. The district must address its financial problems responsibly and fairly, rather than once again prioritizing students in whiter, wealthier Oakland neighborhoods by unjustly forcing Black students to give up their educational opportunities and neighborhood schools.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Molly Coben.
Go ahead, please.
Molly, if you could unmute yourself to speak. Should we move on to the next speaker?
Yes, please.
Next speaker we have is Jabari Shaw.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Jabari, if you could unmute yourself. Mr. President, should we move on to the next speaker?
Please, thank you.
Next speaker we have is Sharon Rose.
Okay, go ahead, please.
My name is Sharon Rose, and I've been following this situation in the Oakland Public Schools for 30 years. 30 years ago this year, I took my son by the hand and walked to our neighborhood school and enrolled him. And then he walked to a neighborhood middle school later on. And all I can say is I want for every single family in this town to be able to have what I had, what our family had. I think it is wrong that you all are hiding behind Zoom. We can't talk to you directly. We can't demonstrate in front of you. We can't talk to each other. We can't look you in the eye, and you don't have to look us in the eye. Except for Mike Hutchinson. Thank you very much, Director Hutchinson. That also, it is very sad that there is such a lack of institutional memory among this board, despite the fact that at least one of you was around for the last round of closures. But the people remember. Everybody who's been paying attention has a story to tell about a school that was closed that shouldn't have been. I remember Lazier, where the district spent a lot of money renovating that school and then closed it, and 2 weeks later it opened as a charter school. The people of Jingletown did not want a charter school. They wanted to keep their school, but then they were really happy that they got a charter in its place. What else could they be? They didn't have to move, but we lost them to the public schools. Open up your meetings so we can look you in the eye.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Ashma.
Go ahead, please. Okay.
Mr. President, yes,
Yes.
move on to the next speaker.
Okay, please.
Elizabeth Nervous.
Go ahead, please.
Elizabeth, if you could unmute yourself to speak.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. My name is Elizabeth, and I had some concerns, and these were my concerns. If you could request the governor to forgive and repay the loan that was given to OUSD and hope to keep the schools open. And what impact? There's going to be an impact on the children's education, financial hardships for families, overcrowded classrooms. Teachers are currently overwhelmed and underpaid. And I also needed to know, why are the school closures only happening in the lower income areas where schools are most needed? If you think of the crime rate now, how are these closures going to help the community? Our children are being shuffled around like a deck of cards, taken out of their comfort zones. It sounds like the children are being set up for failure. That's my concern. School closures should not happen. There's over 10 schools that you guys are wanting to close. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I don't know what other alternatives you all have. If children move around, families move around because not for reasons, because they may have to. If there's a lot of renters here. So if the children are moving around there, that puts them in a different district. How many jobs will be lost for the teachers? And then I heard what you said when I saw the data. You said that Westlake, which my grandson attends there, and then there's La Escalita. Well, those two schools are going to be merging into the West Oakland school. There's going to be an overcrowded condition there. There's no way. And how are you all going to balance who comes into the district? There's going to be, just as it always has been, imbalance and overcrowded conditions. And it's unfair to our students. It's so unfair.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Jennifer Cole.
Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer Cole. I have two middle school students at Hillcrest. I'm actually a teacher at Piedmont Unified. Part of me feels a little embarrassed even complaining because unlike many others, I actually have the option of pulling my child out of this district and putting them in a much better performing district. However, I wanted to support my city. I wanted my children to be educated in Oakland, so I have kept them here despite just watching years of mismanagement by this board. Many others have said it better than me. The data, the amount that you seem to be saving by closing this school seems very minimal. And I am noticing as a Hillcrest parent that there were no savings shown for the schools that you're truncating and turning into K-5. I don't see how you're going to save any money on those schools like La Escuelita and Hillcrest because you're not getting rid of any facilities. You're not getting rid of maybe a couple of middle school teachers. If they don't move over, you're keeping your principal, you're keeping all of the associated costs with those schools. So I find it interesting that those were entirely left out of your presentation. Also, your mention of maintaining ratios is skewed given that universal TK is starting to happen. So your ratios in TK can no longer be 24:1, but they will be 24:2. And in a couple of years, they will be 20:2. So I think that your data, as others have said, is completely off. And I just find it appalling that this is such a poorly managed district. And I think that you guys need to get your affairs in order and not put it on the backs of the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Angelica Marquez.
Go ahead, please.
Angelica, if you could unmute yourself to speak. Mr. President, should we move on to the next speaker?
Bueno,
Oh, okay.
¿sí me escuchan? Bueno, mi nombre es Angélica, soy parte de la escuelita, madre de la escuelita, y estoy un poco preocupada, y enojada porque han dicho que...
Señora, disculpa, puede esperar tantito para que llamen a la
Ok.
intérprete. Gracias. General Counsel, can we have?
Is it Ms. Vargas?
Bueno.
Hang on, Ms. Vargas.
¿Están
No,
listas?
not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Hold on. Un momento.
Ya.
A ver si me escuchan en el
Okay.
foro. Can you hear me?
Ok.
Ms. Vargas, go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm ready.
Bueno, estoy un poco preocupada, soy madre de la escuelita, representando a mi comunidad y a la escuelita. Estoy preocupada porque han dicho un par de mentiras. Una de ellas es que nuestra escuela ha sido puesta en esta lista por baja de inscripción, siendo que nuestra escuela está al 100% ocupada. Incluso hay lista de esperas para otros niños que han querido entrar a esa escuela. Nos molesta que nos estén mintiendo. La otra es que dijeron que nuestros maestros no están calificados. No sé quién se creen ustedes para que digan que nuestros maestros no están calificados. Me da mucha tristeza que se expresen así de maestros que han estado exponiéndose al virus y haciendo muchas cosas por nuestros hijos. No les permitiremos esto. Mañana, padres, somos 1800, escúchenme. Estamos en la 1050, Segunda Avenida, La Escuelita. Ahí nos haremos una marcha hasta el distrito para hacerles conocer que no cerrará nuestra escuela, que no cerrará nuestra middle school, que estamos defendiendo a nuestros niños. Apóyenos, por favor. Gracias, Mike, por todo lo que nos has dicho. Gracias, padres, por su buen corazón de defender a sus hijos. Gracias, Dios los bendiga. Estamos en oración, estamos con todos los que quieran estar con nosotros para defender a nuestros niños. No les creemos que nuestra escuela debe de estar ahí, porque nuestra escuela está al 100% llena. No les permitiremos que saquen a nuestros hijos de middle school para llevarlos a una escuela que ustedes dicen de bienvenida. No dejaremos que ustedes decidan a dónde deben ir nuestros hijos. Nosotros ya decidimos. Nuestros hijos están bien en nuestras escuelas. Gracias.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Angelica, and I am the mother of students at La Escuelita. I am very concerned and very sad about what is being said about my community and my school. First of all, there is a couple of lies. The first one being, you say that our school is under-enrolled. This is a lie. Our school is full. It's 100% full, and we even have a wait list. So we are very, very angry about this lie. The second lie is that we don't have qualified teachers. Who do you think you are saying these things? We are very sad about you talking this way about our teachers. Our teachers have gone above and beyond for our students, have been exposed to the virus and everything. And so we are not going to let you do this. Tomorrow, parents, I invite you to come here. We are located at 1050 Second Avenue, and we are going to march towards the school to ask for to demand that we don't have these closures. We are not going to move our students, our middle school students, to the schools of your choice. Even though you call them welcoming schools, you don't get to decide where our children have to go. And so thank you, Mike, and thank you, parents. God bless you, and God bless all of you that support us. We invite you tomorrow to this march. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I would request that we allow or put a set aside 15 minutes to a half an hour for student public comments. This has been about an hour so far. And I would propose that that in about half an hour, we set aside half an hour for student comments, and that would require the adults in the audience to lower their hands, or actually, I would propose that we do that now. And if there's no objection, ask.
I object.
Yeah,
So
okay.
can we have a discussion about this then? Because
Yes,
students
we
by board
will.
policy are supposed to go
I'd
first.
like to complete my item first, Mr. Hutchinson. I just am asking as a request that we allow up to 30 minutes for students to be identified separate from the adults in the period of time here, and then we can proceed on after that half an hour to everybody who raises their hands. And I can see there's many people that continue to want to speak, and so at that time we can entertain extension of the time. Okay, I recognize, the chair recognizes Director Hutchinson.
Well, per board policy, students are supposed to go first. So I don't know why you didn't recognize that as a board policy that you haven't recognized in any of the meetings that you've chaired yet this month. So what would have been appropriate is for you to guarantee that the students went first. What's inappropriate is to tell the 1,600 people on Zoom to lower their hands so we can make room for students. So what we need to do is have a student time carved out at the start. If you want to extend the public comment time to be able to coordinate that, that was something I might be acceptable to. But now you're pitting the community against each other by telling them to lower their hands to let our students go. And that's coming out of the limited 2 hours that you gave to the 1,800 people to begin with. So this is what happens when you violate the board policy. So how are you going to make right by the students now without pitting them against the community, President Yee?
My request to my colleagues is that we ask everybody to lower their hands, and students raise their hands now, and we recognize students for 30 minutes, and then we continue on with the rest of the adults.
So if we can keep going back and forth. I thought this was comment time, but I'd really like to hear from the student directors, because I want it to be clear for all of the community watching that this is, again, that you didn't do this at the start, and you should have had them go first, shouldn't you have, Board President Yee? And so now here we are all these hours into the meeting, 3.5 hours in, and you want to recognize the students now. So why don't we defer to the student directors and ask them how they would like to handle representing the students?
I would request to my request to my colleagues is that we ask the adults in the queue to lower their hands and call on the students at this time for about half an hour, and then continue with everyone else.
We don't go by request. That's not a motion. So I request that the students get a chance to speak. So I would like to hear from the student directors. That would be my request, or we can do this by parliamentary procedure. Thank you.
Is that a procedural request that I can make?
Yeah, it's up to your colleagues as to whether or not they concur or don't concur.
Okay. I would like to request that and ask each of my colleagues, including the student board members, if that would be a request that they would accept. Director Powell, Student Director Powell.
Yes, I agree with Director Hutchinson. I do believe that students should have been, they should have been the first to speak. And I private messaged everybody that I could. The folks that were calling on the names, I private messaged them saying, hey, we have a list of students that would like to speak. That there was a list of folks that we were able to recognize that were parents, that were students, that we would like to be called on first. And so to what I saw.
I'm sorry.
No, to what I saw was that we were still going in the orders of the names. Students were still not being called on. It was to my knowledge that I would be able to extend, you know, the last 30 minutes for students after the hour, which isn't right. Students should not be the last to speak. Students should always be our top priority. You are the board that is here to listen to youth voice. I know that there are young people in this space today. And although I've expressed that it's been hard to identify those students, I know that they are here. And I hope that you all are listening to me as your fellow peers. I am in these OUSD schools. I'm here speaking for you all, but I'm also going through my own things and I would like to hear you all speak. And so, yes, I would ask for us to extend some time for students to hear young people voices. And I would like to ask for community members to please respect the time that is given for our young people at this time, because as a student myself on this board, I do not feel respected. And so I would like to ask the community to please respect me and my fellow board director, Natalie Gallegos, as we are asking for young people to listen to their voices, for this board to listen to their voices. And so, President Yee, if you would like to allocate 30 minutes for young people, you may as well do so. But I ask you to also extend time, not another 30 minutes for the community members, but more time, because they have been here patiently listening to a presentation that they would like to give a comment on. We are not here to listen to another 30 community members. We are here to listen to every single one of them. All the hands that I see raised right now, they should be raised after the students. And so I would like to see the same amount of people with the same amount of hands raised.
Thank you, Student Director Powell.
I second that motion. I second that motion to have 30 minutes now for students and extend the public comment time. And I would actually ask Student Director Powell to clarify how much time she wants to extend it in the motion that she just introduced. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved. Director Powell.
Mr. President.
Yes.
The motion has to be made by a regular member of the board.
Okay, is there
So I would like to make the motion that Student Director Powell just made, and I would say, and add in including 2 extra hours of public comment time at the end. So the motion is for everyone to politely lower their hands now to give 30 minutes dedicated to the students, and that we add on an extra 2 hours to the public comment time.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Motion.
President Yee, I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded by Director Hutchinson, seconded by Director Williams. Any other board comment on this item?
Just that it's unfortunate that I had to introduce it and we couldn't just accept the motion from our student director. But my fellow directors, you all heard clearly what our student director asked of us. So out of respect to our student directors, I would respectfully ask that you join in and vote for this.
You're out of order right now. I did not recognize you. Student Director Gallego, do you have a comment on this item?
I would just like to say if everyone on the board can respect Director Powell's and I's request, because it's definitely important to hear from our community, especially from our youth and our students that are going to these schools, because do you see how many people are here today trying to give public comment? There's literally 1,561 people in this meeting right now. I don't think I've ever seen this many people come to a board meeting just to speak. So I would appreciate if you would give the time for everyone to be allowed to speak today, especially our students, because our students have school. I myself have school. And I myself is stressing over school, but I still come to these meetings, and students are still coming to these meetings as well, as they're going through a pandemic and struggling in school, so they can come and you can hear their voices. So I would respect if you respect them and let them get the chance to speak.
Okay, thank you. Director Ng, do you have a comment on this item?
I was just going to also acknowledge that I know it's difficult in this forum to recognize which were students. So I'm sorry that we're not able to take students up front, but I also support 30 minutes for students. And what I had heard as the request was to extend by at least 30 minutes at the back end. And I would suggest that at that point, we depending on how many speakers are left at that time, determine how many additional, if any, minutes we would like to extend.
Okay, that would be an amendment.
That would be an amendment to the, yes.
That would be an amendment to Director Hutchinson's initial motion. Do you accept that, Director Hutchinson?
No, that's not friendly. And I bet if you ask the student directors, they would concur with my 2 hours extension. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and if I can make another comment, I do not feel
Hey,
respected because I'm sorry, President Yi,
I'd like to.
but
I'd like to go around and make sure that everybody, because we have an unfriendly amendment to the original motion. And is there a second to do we require a second to that? Director Ng's motion, Mr. Rickstraw?
I can
no,
retract and we
President
can
Yi,
vote
this is
on.
not right. I'm sorry, Director Ng, but this is not right. President Yi, you told me that I was welcomed to move to extend the meeting by another hour. And I thank Director Hutchinson for supporting the decisions that Natalie and I have made. Although we cannot make the motion to move to extend the meeting, he took that and respected us as students. And I thank Director Williams as well for always standing by us young people. And so I do not think that is a friendly motion. It is not respecting our decisions as students in this space. Again, we have young people, and I am acknowledging that most of the young people in this space are elementary and middle school students. They are young students who are still in school. We need to respect our younger students.
Do you withdraw your amendment to Director
Well,
Hutchinson?
there was no second. It was a suggestion by Director Ng. So absent a second, there's no amendment pending. The only motion that's pending right now is to carve out the 30 minutes plus 2 hours as moved by Director Hutchinson and seconded by Director Williams.
And
That's
my
what's on the floor.
understanding. And that's my understanding of it. Director Williams, do you have any comment on this item before we take the vote?
Thank you, President Yi. My comments are really simple. I stand with young folks. I'd love to hear the voice of the young folks. We've been talking about this at the last 3-4 board. Since I've been on the board just for a year now, we've been trying to find ways to bring student voice to this conversation. So I don't have much to say besides I stand with my student directors and really advocating for their peers to actually have voice in this conversation. I just want to shout out also Westlake students for really getting out there today and just really using their voice again. I mean, we really have to be honest about, how we look at our young folks. They are our future. They're in the present. They are stepping up, maturing every single day. And we as a board will really have to elevate that and lift that up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Director Hutchinson, do you have any comments on your motion?
No, other than I see the student directors with their hands raised. So you've already disrespected them enough. So I would defer any and all questions about this to the student directors who originally made this motion. Thank you, President Yi.
You're welcome. Director Gonzalez, do you have any comments on this motion?
Yeah, I don't do my best work when it gets really late at night. So no, I do not support extending the meeting another 2 hours. I think it's fine to make sure that we take our student comments. That's important. But no, I will not be voting to extend the meeting by another public comment session for another 2 hours. We haven't had any board discussion or deliberation yet, and that's going to be a quite lengthy process.
Okay, Director Thompson, do you have any comments on the motion on the floor?
Yes, I have to concur with Director Gonzalez. I do want to hear from the students. I really do. But I think when we try to combine both of those points of interest, what happens is you have a motion that has two parts, and one might believe in one part and not believe in the other part. I think we need to be very discreet, and that would facilitate our operations. I would like to have a motion for the students to speak, of course, but to extend 2 hours, I'm not sure I want to do that.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Davis, do you have any comment on this item?
Yeah, I do feel like, I'd like to, it's not to get bogged down in process. I want to hear from the students. I think it's important that we hear that, it's a very painful and difficult conversation we're having tonight. So I do think we should extend comment as long as possible. And, I think we've had many late meetings in the past, so I think we can stand a little longer. So I would support this.
Okay, Director Gallegos.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to thank Director Hutchinson for always supporting me and Sam in our decisions and our thoughts, and for acknowledging how I had my hand raised. And also I want to give thanks to Director Williams for always supporting us as well. But I would just like to say that there's been times where meetings have gone till 2 in the morning, and it's never been a problem for you guys then to extend meetings. But yet you're closing schools down. You are planning to close schools down. Do you not think that's a bigger topic than all these other topics you've had? These are families who raised their children and who might have themselves even went to these schools in OUSD. Yet you're not giving them the chance to speak and tell you how much these schools meant to them. You need to give them the opportunity to speak. Our young people is important, but our community is important as well. They have raised those children in this school. So if you are able to go till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning and other meetings, you will do fine. You need to listen to these people. I'm over here drinking coffee myself to be able to stay up in these meetings and hear everybody. So as adults, you should be able to do the same thing. You came into this position knowing your responsibilities and knowing that you represent the community and the students in your district. And I will also like to say that if anyone votes against this, it's just showing how much you actually care about your students and your community. And it's going to show a lot at the end of the day.
Okay, Director Powell, Student Director Powell, do you have a comment on the final comment on this before we take the?
I stand by everybody who supports young people. I stand by my fellow director, Natalie Gallegos. She knows what's up. Mike Hutchinson knows what's up. Van Cedric Williams knows what's up. I feel respected by them. By everybody else, I hope you do the right decision. I know you can withstand 2 hours. I can withstand another 2 hours. It doesn't hurt to hear from our community members. This is a special meeting for a reason. You all plan special meetings for a topic that is this big for our community members for a reason. So take this time to listen to our community members, take this time to listen to us as young people who are saying we need to hear from our community members.
Okay, thank you. So let's call the question on the motion by Director Hutchison and seconded by Director Williams. The restatement of the motion, as I understood it, is we will ask adults to lower their hands. We will have 30 minutes of student comment at this time, and then we will extend the meeting by 2 hours. Did I get that correct, Director Hutchinson?
Almost. So you started off this meeting by telling us we were going to have 120 minutes of public comment.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up, Mr. Director Hutchinson.
We are now in the process of carving out. There would still be another 30 minutes left of the original public comment time, and my motion extends that by another 2 hours. Because remember, we're working with the 2 hours that you originally stated.
That's
so
correct.
I know math hasn't been the strongest suit from some of these presentations, but I just want it clear that my 2 hours is on top of the 2 hours that was planned. And of that original 2 hours, you are now saying that 30 minutes of it is being dedicated to students only.
Okay, that's the motion. Could you take the vote for us, Director? I'm sorry, Mr. Rickstraw.
Yes, and just for informational purposes, We have 59 minutes and 17 seconds left on the original 2 hours. On the motion as stated, Student Director Powell,
Yes.
Student Director Gallegos,
Yes.
Director Ng,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes, sir.
Director Hutchinson,
Yes.
Director Gonzalez,
No.
Director Thompson,
Dane,
Vice President Davis. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir. You're muted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. President Yi,
Yes.
the motion is adopted. The meeting comment will be extended by 2 additional hours with a 30-minute carve out for students only.
Okay. Mr. Seychelles, could you announce, can we arrange for students to be sure that they are identified and that the adults lower their hands?
Yes,
President Yi, clarification, I think it would be helpful if you as the chair
Director Hutchinson,
could politely ask people to be required.
you're breaking up, but are we prepared to do that, Mr. Seychelles? And I'll make the announcement to the audience.
Yes, so for the first, that the public that hasn't lowered their hand, I'm assuming those are students.
Okay.
And the first one is,
Just a second, I see the numbers dropping, so I'm just gonna wait for like 10 seconds to be sure that all the adults lower their hands for the first 30 minutes if possible. Okay, let's start, Mr. Seychelles.
okay, the first speaker we have is Jose.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jose, and I'm a member of the Coalition to Defend Affirmative Action, Integration and Immigrant Rights, and Fight for Equality by any means necessary for short BAM. I'd like to say that make clear that these proposals to shut down schools are completely ridiculous. They're unnecessary and racist. The same way that this board has completely disregarded the safety and the lives of students, of teachers and community by recklessly committing to in-person school learning in the midst of a global deadly pandemic. Even though students, teachers, and community have been walking out, seeking out, striking, car caravanning, taking action, demanding quality virtual learning, you are once again treating our students, our teachers, our community as disposable. This board went above and beyond to bend backwards and even hosting Governor Newsom, a ridiculous spectacle, to enforce ridiculous unsafe policies in schools for in-person reopening, even punishing schools and districts where students are choosing virtual learning by taking away funding. California now has over $45 billion surplus. With that same energy that you are so readily, so readily sell out the people of Oakland, you should be demanding that funding for Oakland and California schools and joining the thousands of parents and teachers and students that are fighting for quality education. You already are almost through with getting rid of the last Black high school in West Oakland, and now you're going after more schools. This is ridiculous. It's completely unnecessary. There is no drop in enrollment. You are closing schools and forcing students into charter schools and supporting those charter schools that are funding your campaigns. The people are not leaving Oakland. The city is growing. Your excuses are hypocritical and pathetic. No school closures, return schools to virtual learning. Thank you.
Thank you. We're calling for the next student.
Yes, the next student is Andrew Linley.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Andrew, if you could unmute yourself to speak. Mr. President, should we move on to the next speaker, student speaker?
Okay, please.
The next student speaker is Joya Brandon.
Go ahead, please. Is this is student time?
I'm not a student, so I yield my time to a student and I'll raise my hand another time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Next student speaker.
The next student speaker is Vera Sloan.
Go ahead, please.
Vivian Clanton. My mom, Vera Sloan, registered me for this meeting, and I am from ICS. My name has been taken off the list to be merged with TCN, but I stand with my fellow students in the other schools. What you are doing is wrong. You will save little money, if any at all. This is not a good idea. It will Schools help communities grow, and if you close the schools, you will lose money and communities. People will stop wanting to go to the schools in fear of the school getting closed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This time is for students. The next speaker, please.
Next student speaker is Bernadette Ryan.
Go ahead, please.
Bernadette, if you could unmute yourself to speak. President Yi, should we move on to the next speaker?
Yes, please. Next student speaker.
Next student speaker is Moshin Sharif.
Can we call the next speaker?
Yes, next speaker is Mutua Muhammad.
Okay, this is the next student speaker. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. My name is Amr Muhammad. I go to Brookfield Elementary School. Please do not close our school. There is no other school that in the walking distance, and so it's not safe for us to walk. And also, we will not let this happen, and we will continue to fight. If you are talking about not having money, go to the state and federal. Tell them where our tax money, and they should build our school and not close it. Please do not close our Brookfield. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next student speaker, Mr. Sejal.
Next student speaker is Moshin Sharif.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, should we move on to the next student speaker?
Yes, please move on to the next student speaker.
The next student speaker is Anna Rudman.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Anna, if you can unmute yourself to speak.
Go to the next student speaker, Mr. Seychell.
Okay, the next speaker is Maricela.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I am unable to bring this person on board to speak. This person needs to update the Zoom. Moving on to the next speaker.
Thank you.
Angelica Lopez.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Good evening, community and board members. I'm a student from Met West High School, and I strongly oppose this decision. Merging and closing schools is just completely inconsiderate. This decision is being made for the money and savings instead of thinking of the students' education. Larger amount of students impacts the students' education. By closing and merging schools, you would be disrupting the students' education, which is something that as a board member, you should care about. You are not thinking of what a student needs and what the community wants. With the pandemic, parents have passed away, families have struggled financially, and you expect them to follow your decisions and have another struggle with bringing their kid to a farther located school. Parents usually sometimes walk their kids to school and because their schools are accessible. And also, staff members, why would you want to fire teachers when instead you should be hiring them? You are lowering high quality schools. I think that you should be making, while you are making a decision for the community, why are you doing it if you aren't even considering it? I think that I question that if this decision is being made to benefit the students or if it's being made for your convenience. Thank you.
Thank you. Next student speaker.
Next student speaker is Claudia Campbell.
Okay, go ahead, please.
You're on, go ahead. I represent La Escuelita that you cannot close La Escuelita because I learned a lot from there and I like that school because I've been there for a lot of years. And my brother Winfrey. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next student speaker, please.
Next student speaker is Zariah Gibson.
Go ahead.
Unfortunately, I'm able to bring a person on board. The speaker will need to update the Zoom. Going on to the next person.
Go ahead.
Audra Dornish.
Hi, my name is Audrey Darnice, and I'm going to play videos of my 4th grade students from Manzanita Community School. Please show me a thumbs up if you can hear them.
Dear OUSD school board members, my name is Chana. I'm in 4th grade at Manzanita Community School. I have been learning at this school since kindergarten. I think that if you close our school, how will kids learn? I know that there are more schools, but this school, Manzanita Community School, is the best. The teachers are nice, helpful, and pay attention to the students. I think that you only work for money. You don't care if kids learning. From Chanel.
I'm going to play another video. Show me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Yeah, go ahead. Dear USD school board members, my name is Hedwin. I am in 4th grade at Manzanita Community School. I have been learning at this school since TK. Don't shut down our school because it's a wonderful school and the teachers are awesome. We have a lot of memories. That it would be sad that this school disappears. Is money more important than our education? From Hadwin Diaz Martin.
I'm going to play another one. Thumbs up if you can hear it.
Dear OUSD school board members, my name is Taiwan. I am in 4th grade at Manzanita Community School. I have been learning at this school since 6 years ago.
MCS is special to me because I have so many memories, and when I get older, I want to visit my old teachers. And when I'm older, I want my kids to come to MCS. I will feel so mad and feel so mad and sad because when I get a brother or a sister, I want them to go here at MCS from Taiwan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next student speaker.
Next student speaker is Alexis Sosa.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Dear school board members and Superintendent Johnson Trammell, my name is Alexis and I'm a 5th grade student at Fred-Hugh Korematsu Discovery Academy. I think this is a huge mistake. In the next few years. If you close this school, they won't be able to come. Also, some of us live very close to the school and it wouldn't be fair for students to have to travel every morning to a school that is not in their neighborhood. You might not think it's that big of a deal to shut our school down, but you have no idea how many lives you are negatively affecting. Find another way to save your money. Save KDA. Thank you.
Thank you. Next student speaker.
Next student speaker is Sophie Tran. Unfortunately, the speaker will need to update their Zoom. Move on to the next student speaker, Janaya Mitchell.
If we can go to the next speaker, Mr. Sei Chow.
Yes, moving on to the next speaker is Shimon Yo.
Go ahead, please.
Moving on to the next student speaker, Jay Brown.
Okay, go ahead, please. Okay, next speaker, Mr. Sei Chow.
Yes, next speaker is M.V. Watson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not a student. I'll lower my hand. My apologies.
Thank you. Thank you. Next student speaker, Mr. Sei Chow.
Next student speaker we have is Matthew Nicholson. Unfortunately, the speaker would need to update the Zoom. Moving on to the next speaker, Alexia Michelle.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I'm not a student, I'm a parent.
This is intended for student speakers, but you can come back on at a later date, at a later time, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next speaker, student speaker, Mr. Sei Chow.
Next student speaker, Irene Holmes Peer.
Okay, go ahead.
If you could unmute yourself to speak.
And we both had to go to the
Can you guys hear me?
It took us months to recover from.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. This time is for student speakers.
Yes, I'm actually I wanted to get on and speak in regards to Brookfield School. I've had a long generation of family members that's attended at Brookfield School. I don't agree with your school closure. I am currently pregnant with my first child, and eventually I plan on my first child going to that school. Not only about the school, like even the teachers. Since I'm grown, the teachers have done tremendous work in the neighborhood, the community, and they're still here for us right now today if we need anything. And I'm here to do anything that I can to support the school not being closed.
Thank you very much. Next student speaker, Mr. Sei Chow.
All right, President, Iggy,
next-
can we reserve it for student speakers during this time?
Yes, I'd like to. So we're asking for student speakers. But unfortunately, the system doesn't identify who's a student and who doesn't. Who isn't. Next
Yes,
speaker.
the next speaker we have is R. Brown.
Go ahead, please. Okay, next speaker, Mr. Sechao.
Yes, next speaker is Arden.
Next
Mundi.
student. Okay, next student speaker, Mr. Sechao.
Yes, next student speaker we have is Ayana Johnson.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Unfortunately, speaker will need to update their Zoom. Moving on to
President Yi, as we're moving through these speaker requests, I've just been informed that many of the students can't speak because their district Chromebooks have never been updated with Zoom. And so that's the problem with so many of these students trying to speak, is the Chromebooks that the district has given them can no longer access the Zoom that we use. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sechao, Student Director Powell notified me that Fabiola Chavez and Anave Cruz are students. So if you could,
Fabia Chavez. Yes, I do see that person. Did you want me to call that person, that student?
please.
Okay. Fabiola.
Go ahead.
My name is Fabiola and I go to Fremont High School. And I think that closing down a school, especially at a time right now, is a really bad idea because we are going through a pandemic. This time is to unite as a community and not to separate us. And personally, I went to Roots International in my 7th grade year. And I remember all my friends and classmates crying because our school got shut down. And I remember seeing on the news how like all my friends and all my classmates, teachers, and community members went up to the board and we were trying to reason with you guys on why you shouldn't close our school. I remember it was a really bittersweet day because like I couldn't finish all my middle school years at Roots. And I remember feeling really isolated and really sad. And when I went to my new school, and I was really lucky that my new school was really close to home, because if I wasn't lucky, I would have to take a bus, and my mom worked, and I don't think my mom could have taken me to school. And also another thing is that every time I walk past the Roots building, it's always a really bittersweet experience for me because I remember all the good fun times and how much Roots really changed me. But I also remember all the sadness and everything bad that happened. And I think it's really disappointing and it's really sad that we have to have all these young people come here to tell you why you shouldn't close a school. And I'm pretty sure that closing down a school will save you very little money. And something I noticed is that you guys are trying to close La Escuelita. And isn't that the place where you guys have your board meetings? Because I'm pretty sure you guys have it at the cafeteria. And if you close down La Escuelita, my question is, how will you guys continue to have your board meetings? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next student speaker, Mr. Sechao. Is there a Miss Cruz?
Yes, we have Anave Cruz.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Anave Cruz. I'm a student at Oakland High, and I just wanted to voice the community, what they've been saying. I think it's, as a community, there's been generations and generations going to these schools and using the school's resources. They're familiar with faces, they're familiar with staff, they're familiar with students and teachers, and closing it down, especially elementary schools, I feel like that's going to take a toll on students. I feel like you guys preach mental health so much and preach mental health on students, but yet you guys aren't realizing how this is going to affect our students. Pulling students from their schools is going to affect their mental health so severely. They're going to be put into a new school. And if you think about it, it's going to be different schools, different students colliding, which there's no issue. We're all community, but sometimes those students, they build a community at their schools. They love their schools for the reasons, their locations, what's around them. And if you're just going to pull these students apart, pull these teachers apart, students have built relationships with teachers, and I've built close relationships with teachers. And I just can't imagine how many bonds are going to be destroyed because sometimes they won't be able to contact their teachers. They won't be able to just be with their community that they grew up with. So I just think that, especially with the pandemic, such as what the community has been saying, it's also not a right time, especially to do it now. We're trying to adapt to so many different changes, and merging schools is just going to create a harder job on teachers, which you guys don't realize because you guys have your meetings, but you guys are not in the schools. You guys are not teaching the students. You guys are not with the peers there. So therefore, you guys are just making these decisions, but not realizing how it affects everyone, because you guys are saving your money. And I want to know, where's that money going towards? What are you guys going to use it towards? Is it going to be resourceful to the students to help us? So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next student speaker, Mr. Seychelles.
President Yi, I'm sorry to interrupt, President Yi.
Direct-
Just want to
Director
share
Williams-
with you and
Director
Mr.
Williams, I'd like to be able to recognize you just a second.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
Director Williams, I recognize you.
Thank you, sir. I do apologize for the interruption. Just wanted to share the information that Mr. Seychelles can, for students with older Chromes books that don't work with the Zoom, he can switch them to panelists and allow them to speak there, and then switch them back to attendee. It's just a quick switch over back and forth. Thank you, sir.
Unfortunately, Mr. President, we're not able to do that on the fly at the moment.
Okay. Thank you for the suggestion, Director Williams. I also got a comment that student board members who do not have updated Chromebooks can use the phone call-in system and call in and be recognized in that way. We are coming up on the 30 minutes, and how many more student speakers does it seem that we have, Mr. Seychelles? It appears that we have 50 some student speakers left. Is that correct, Mr. Seychelles?
According to the hands, yes. And
Okay,
there is no way to tell at the moment which 52 hands that are up are students.
Okay. I would, if there's no objection, I'd like to extend the student board member, the student comment time by another 30 minutes, if I may. If there's no objection. Okay, Director.
A point of clarification. I thought I heard Mr. Seychelles just say he couldn't determine how many hands were up. So we can just go through all of these hands. We have the time dedicated, and we still have, after this time, another 2.5 hours of public comment. So we have enough time to go through these. We shouldn't need to stop and do anything until we've exhausted these student hands. We have enough time for it, unless you want to cut off the students in order to bring.
Do student directors, Pal, you had your hand raised?
I agree with Director Hutchinson. I was going to say the same thing. Our students are our community. We can't separate our community from our students.
Okay.
Adults and students we're all equal.
Okay, so then we can just continue through the time and begin when the 30 minutes are up, we can begin just taking all comments in the order that they're.
We have the student hands up. You can announce to everyone that they can put up their hands, and we don't have to take these breaks, and we can keep rolling through the next 2.5 hours of public comment that we have scheduled.
Okay, Mr. Seychelles, student speakers, could you continue, please?
Yes, the next speaker we have is Moshin Sheriff.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, moving on to the next speaker. Pearl Madison.
Okay, go ahead. please.
Unfortunately, speaker will need to update the Zoom. The next speaker we have is Destiny J.
Okay, go ahead, please.
They will need me to update the Zoom also.
Okay, next student speaker.
The next one speaker is Huda.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Taha from Met West High School. And I just wanted to say that that my whole family is like opposing this decision of closing La Escalita Elementary, because we've had like many people, like many family members, cousins, friends, and it's right next to the house, you know, and we just wanted to say that it's not a very good decision to close the school. Also, all the other schools, I don't think it's fair for the families that are opposing this decision.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please. Student speaker, Mr. Seychao.
Yes, next speaker is Latanya Buckley Williams.
Go ahead, please.
I'm not a student. I can wait.
Thank you very much. Next student speaker, please.
Next student speaker is Anthony.
Okay, go ahead.
Unfortunately, Anthony will need to update their Zoom in order to speak. Moving on to Tina L.
Okay, next speaker, please. Go ahead.
I'm Kamara. I go to Carl B. Monk Elementary School. I've been going there since I was 4 years old, and I really want to graduate 5th grade there. Everybody at that school is just like family to me. That's the only school I want to go to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker
Next
is
student
Annie.
speaker.
Yes, the next student speaker is Annie
Oh.
Kangleson.
I don't even like it. I didn't even.
Hello. Sorry. Hi, my name is Ani Chaglassian. I work with so many students within Oakland Unified as a student myself who have advocated for safer openings with schools staying open, yet you want to shut schools that are predominantly with people of color. It makes me so infuriated hearing the children who are begging for you to allow their schools to remain open because this is their family and their community. I thank all of the children who are here today, the students who are staying up at 9:30, and I want to thank Mr. Hutchin and Mr. Williams and everybody who supports youth advocates and their voices to be heard. It's infuriating seeing that you guys cannot make decisions. And even in this meeting alone, the strain between your communications and the strife. I don't understand why we can't all come together and support students. How can you listen to so many people who are advocating for change, who are advocating for their community staying together because this is the schools that they've been going to their whole life, and just think about budget cuts that probably won't save you any money in the end. You are funneling money to charter schools that don't matter. And it's so infuriating hearing students have an outcry, hearing students make walkouts, but you guys don't care at all. All you care about is fighting with each other and not having any communication with each other. Why can't you just listen to students? And why can't you just listen to their family members and your community that have put you in these positions? Mr. you make more than 185% of the average Oakland Unified School District teachers who are advocating for their students and listening to their voices. I ask you to please communicate with each other with kindness and respect, and not have to continuously fight with each other. You are not setting a good example for students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker?
Next speaker is Angie. Unfortunately, Angie will need to update her Zoom. Next speaker we have first name is Yabnele, Laura.
I'm not a student. My student is my daughter, and she wanna talk. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Saisat Janity. I'm a fifth grader of La Escuelita. I've been in La Escuelita since TK. I love my school, my teacher, and my friends. My family and I do not give you your blessing on the decision of school student closure. You'll only make student education go down. I'm not speaking only for my school. I'm speaking for everyone, for all the schools you want to close. You are making families stressed in the pandemic. Many changes are happening and changes are happening right now. And you're just adding more problems to their lives, to all family lives.
No to the closures. We're not going to.
We do not accept your closures. Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Next speaker is Tammy. Fortunately, Tammy will need to update her Zoom. Moving on to the next student speaker, Deara.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Are you a student?
Here's the student.
Thank you
Address.
so much.
Hi,
Hi,
What's
go
your
ahead.
Michelle,
What school you go to?
KDA,
What you got to say?
every class KDA down. My name is Michelle. Every class KDA down. I'll be a drug dealer.
Plain and simple, in our communities, that's what you get when you close schools down. Have a nice one.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next student speaker, Deara.
Hello,
Yes, go ahead.
I am a student at Westlake Middle School. I am in 8th grade. I know the student shutdown does not, like the school shutdown doesn't affect me, but I care because I went to this middle school since I was in 6th grade. And I feel like y'all are focused on the Black schools being shut down instead of all these charter schools and all these other schools that just involve more other races instead of Black people. And I wonder what you guys are going to do with our teachers, our principals, and all these 6th and 7th graders that had just got to school. And I feel like some of them cannot go to like West Oakland Middle because it's so far away from the house. And I feel like our school is well-rounded because we have transportation right in front of the school. We have good places around it. It's in a good community and our people care. And that's all I have to say. God bless.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Nakia Powell.
Hello, hi. My daughter's here to talk.
Hello,
Tell me your name.
my
Hi,
name
go ahead.
is Lee. I go to Colby Monk Elementary School. I do not like the part that they want to close the school down because I like the school so much. It has the beautiful bells and the principals and teachers are so nice. It makes me feel so great but it's not making me feel great that they want to close it. Closing it is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. I don't think they should close it because they have really nice teachers and a great principal.
What's
That's
your
it.
teacher's name?
And my teacher's name is Mrs. Clark. Mrs. Clark, who's the best teacher I ever had. My thing is over.
Oh, do you have music class? Tell me about
I also have a music class with Mr. Turner and Mr. Javier.
And that's it. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Zaina Canover.
She heard you talking.
My name is Zyla. And my name is Zyla, and I go to Prescott Elementary. And my teacher's name is Miss Brookholder. And I love my school. I don't want the people to close down my school because my school is the best thing in the world. My teachers is the best thing and my friends. That's it, please.
Please.
The next speaker is Yumi A.
Hi, my name is Sir Valentino. And I'm from Montclair Elementary School. And even though my school isn't being shut down, the thing is that if COVID is spreading around, it's just not cool because people are dying from this. And my school has already got a lot of cases. And because the first week we already had like at least 10 cases. And I know, but the thing is, if schools close, people aren't gonna be able to get their education. And like, I need help with my schoolwork because some stuff is like confusing me. And people are getting displaced from their schools. And I don't think it's cool because people are gonna miss their friends, their teachers. And it's just not one of the things that I would want for myself either, concerning the fact that I've been going to school for 5 whole years. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Dawood Stevenson. Unfortunately, Dawood will need to update the Zoom in order to speak. Moving on to the next student speaker, Oya Kelly.
Yes, I'm unmuted myself. I hope you all can hear me. Thank you. I'm a student, I'm a parent, I am community. I've taught in Oakland, raised both of my daughters through Oakland Public School. I've also worked with Go Public Schools, so I know that many of the board members that are advocating for closure of schools is because of charter schools wanting to take over those buildings. I also know that in the 1990s, HUD, a part of their revitalization program, was to develop quality schools under these private entities that we call charters that are not governed under the same policies, that are not provided the same oversight and accountability to families. By shrinking schools, you reduce the quality of services. By combining schools, you're discounting, as students have said, their mental health status, their desire to be in community. Let's talk about policy. Brown versus the Board of Education and public school being one of the last things that African Americans have to look to as a right. And now to discount the fact that you are only targeting schools in prime locations, property that happen to be where Black and brown families still live. So urban revitalization, also known as gentrification, uses charter schools to push Black and brown people out of their currently low-income communities so that they can build mixed income housing and build quality charter schools and push Black people out, push brown people out. And it is unfair that you have students on here crying that Oakland labels itself a community school system, which is family, students, community members, and yet you don't have space to listen. It is very painful to know that this is what students and families have to depend on as advocates for their children's future. Resource.
Thank you.
It's about resources.